Welcome into ACC Baseball Etc., presented as always by our friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. You can go to pitchlogic.com for more information. I'm Daron Vaught. I am joined by a special guest today. It is North Carolina's Parks Harber joining the show from Omaha, fresh off of a dramatic victory, one of two in the two games we got yesterday, Parks. First of all, let me start broad. What's your Omaha experience been like? Admittedly, this is a first time for me, so yesterday was a lot to take in. I was in awe. How's it been for you?
It's same way. We were fortunate enough to get out here on Tuesday, actually, because we finished up on Saturday. So we had 2 full days to kind of just hang out and stuff before the game yesterday. And then, the game yesterday just blew me away. I was just unreal fan atmosphere. The ballpark was just beautiful. So just super, super fortunate to be here.
Let's go one step at a time. You guys get into town. What's the first stop? Do you go by Charles Schwab Field and walk around and just kind of take it in?
Yeah, so we actually we just drove the buses by. We did like a little circle around the stadium. We didn't go to the field until practice on Thursday. So we did that on Tuesday, just kind of walked around the old market, kind of explored. Wednesday, we got over to Omaha, University of Nebraska, Omaha, got on the field and stuff. And then we didn't go to see the field until Thursday when we had our team time on the field.
What was it like opening the tournament? You guys had the very first game. We talked about it up in the press box. We were like, okay, if we're coaching one of these teams, what game, if it's our decision, do we want to open up with? And we were struggling with, we kind of like the energy of being the leadoff batter, so to speak. But then the night game comes with its own kind of energy. What was it like to begin the event?
Yeah, so funny enough, so when we were in Charlotte for the ACC tournament, we were the last game. We were the last team to play. And so we were there for 2 days and just watched everyone play for 2 days before we got to go on the field against Pitt. And so we were all like just dying to get out there. And so I think I loved starting off the first game, get out there, because you don't have any time to watch people play, get your nerves up or anything. You get to go out there and kind of set the tone. So it was nice to do that during the day, I think, because I love day games. And then, luckily, we won. So then we get the under the lights matinee tomorrow, which we're all fired up about.
So you like day games?
Love day games.
Amongst your peers, is that common?
I think it's 50-50. I will say it was super nice at the Bosch and the regionals having all those night games, because I think the fan atmosphere was awesome. But I always just feel like I see the ball better during the day. So but I think at this field, it probably won't be an issue.
That's a very practical ball player answer.
Yeah.
You want to see the ball better, so you like playing during the day. Okay, all right. Well, walk me through the game. Obviously, sort of. It was a great game. It is got a little sleepy in the middle, right? Both teams executing pretty well for the most part. Had to pick your spots, and then of course the dramatics there at the end. I'll ask about Vance specifically, but just the game from beginning to end. What was that like through your eyes?
I think another thing that played into it, like playing Virginia first, was kind of, I think, nice for us, just because we played them 3 times, and I think Virginia would say the same thing, that like we're on such a big stage, but we're both really familiar with each other. So we kind of knew what to expect out of them. We had seen their pitching before and stuff like that. But I think just the biggest thing was 2 really good offenses going against each other, and 2 good pitching staffs. And if you would have told us before the game that was going to be a 3-2 final, I think we might not have believed you, just because we know how powerful each team's offense can be. So I think during the middle innings it was kind of a lull, just because the pitchers were doing so well, and that ballpark just plays so big. I know both teams hit some balls really hard that didn't show up on the scorecard just because they just go nowhere, especially the center field. But I think it was just a good baseball game. And then, the late innings, always Chapel Thrills just followed us to Omaha.
So Vance, he's just got a knack for this, right? Is this something that, like when he walked up and it was very clear, okay, Vance Honeycutt's going to have a chance to win the game. Is it a sense of just everybody kind of knows he's going to pull through? Is it more you're being hopeful that he's going to pull through? What's your guys thinking?
Yeah, I think it's just we have so much confidence in him, and it's funny because obviously so many of our games recently have just kind of been on the big stage, like everyone's seeing it. But if you look at our season, I mean, it was from the second weekend or third weekend where we played ECU. He gets a go-ahead homer on Friday to beat ECU 2-1. Sunday at their place, we end up losing on a walk-off, but he ties the game the 8th or the 9th on a single. So it hasn't just been recently, it's been the whole season. But I think it's just confidence. And, like, he's so good that, he could have an 0-for-4 and 0-for-5 stretch, and then the next at bat, he changes the game, like yesterday. And so I think you just always know that you're gonna get a super competitive at bat when he's in the box.
Does that confidence, this is what it seems like to me, does that confidence run 1 through 9 with you guys for the most part?
Yeah, definitely. I think, for me, especially hitting behind Vance and Casey, it's like I get to watch, Vance, who's got the best power speed combination in the country, and then Casey, who, just seeing him from a fall and a whole spring, I mean, his bat to ball and hitting skills are unbelievable. So for them to kind of set the table for us, and I get to, fortunately hit behind them, I think it sets the tone for the whole lineup really well.
Social media was going nuts with the decision to pitch to Vance in that spot. But I thought Virginia's head coach, Brian O'Connor, was really great about addressing it directly. Yeah. And he mentioned Casey specifically, just saying, hey, look, it's kind of a double-edged sword because Casey's their best pure hitter. You mentioned his developments, watching him through a fall and a spring. Is that the kind of guy that as a hitter to be around, like you pick some things up and you've learned things from him?
Yeah, definitely. I think me and him are kind of on the same page too, where we get like way too consumed by it and way too into it just because we love it so much and we love hitting, and we're the people we can kind of talk ourselves into a little bit of a hole. So I mean, me and him just have spent countless hours just talking about the little nuances that come with the baseball swing. And that's why I love baseball so much, because, we've played so much baseball and we've done the same thing over and over and over again, and you're just never going to master it. It's just never going to come easy. So just understanding that. But yeah, I love just talking with him because we kind of see things kind of through the same lens.
You mentioned the park with Charles Schwab Field here. I think a big talking point throughout the week has been and will be how it plays. And we've seen some guys out hit it. Mm-hmm. We've seen, like you said, a lot of hard hit balls that might have gotten out or been up against a wall in other parks. Does that change your approach at all coming into a game like yesterday? Or, maybe given how yesterday transpired, you got to make some adjustments? How does that work?
Yeah, I think we definitely preach as a team to really focus on line drives this week. Definitely just kind of talk with some people who have been here before, that if you can kind of really emphasize trying to stay on top of the ball, it can help, especially with the speed we have in our lineup, right? Like if you can get Vance and D'Onofrio, Madera in the gaps, like they can probably run for days. And just knowing that, like, if you're gonna have to get one out of here, you're gonna have to really, really get it. So I think we definitely focus on just kind of hitting more line drives than we normally would.
Yeah. What's the focus now that you've got an opponent that you haven't seen? I imagine you said you guys had a light practice today. Is there some focusing with the specific opponent, Tennessee, in mind?
Honestly, not really. The coaches will really dive into kind of their pitching staff and their lineup. I imagine tonight we'll kind of do a pregame thing tomorrow and kind of talk about their arms, and I imagine the pitchers will talk about the hitters. But I think the biggest thing we're just focused on right now as a team is just keep having that compete factor. And just keep kind of in baseball, like if you can control the things you can control, if you can do the little things well, kind of regardless of the opponent, you'll have success. So just kind of just really being process oriented and like realizing that today at practice, even if we just kind of went and took a light BP and stretched over at Omaha, that was really, really important to prepare us for tomorrow. I'm taking everything day by day, but just, just really just focus on competing and just grind out at bats, playing pitch by pitch.
Yeah. It's an old SEC foe for you.
Yep.
I'm curious because undoubtedly you've had plate appearances against some guys that maybe you'll see in games against them. Is that something that you will recall in your brain, or maybe you pull it up on Synergy or whatever, and you want to remind yourself how this guy pitched to you? And is that something that like maybe you would plan on using?
Yeah, definitely. I think I will go back tonight and see some previous bats, probably from last year. I can't even tell you how I did against them last year, but definitely kind of get some video, see how they pitched me and stuff. But I think it is nice personally for me to still have that sense of familiarity where I played Tennessee a lot throughout my career, and played against their lineup, played against Christian Moore and Blake Burke and all those guys a few times, and faced some of their arms. So I think for me personally, I do think that's nice.
Yeah. I've talked about this to some teammates of yours throughout the season, coaches, of course, about sort of your fit and the quick transition to becoming a Tar Heel. what went into that? Because everybody says it was relatively seamless, right? Like you just were an instant fit. And we know Coach Forbes sort of recruits that way, whether it be transfers or freshmen coming in. They want North Carolina baseball players. Yeah. How would you describe yourself as a North Carolina baseball player? What is true about you, but is also true about the program?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, hard work is really important to me. But going about things the right way. Like if you see me play a lot, like not a lot of emotions. But that's not because I'm not fired up or super excited. But I think it's really important to kind of keep that level head, not get too up or too down, because the game can change in an instant. So that's kind of Coach Forbes' whole motto this year has been the process and kind of taking everything pitch by pitch and flushing mistakes. And if we have a great win like yesterday where we walk them off, like enjoy that for an hour, take a shower, and then we have to move on to the next. So I think that's kind of how I approach the game as a player myself. Just kind of being really hardworking and still trying to have that sense of humility. And just kind of being really grateful that I get these opportunities. And, if you look at kind of some of our pillars in the program, they kind of back that up too. And Coach Forbes does a great job of preaching that day in and day out of just really just understanding that the game of baseball is so important to just play pitch by pitch and that things can change and we have to kind of keep that same level mindset.
Is that something that, and I've got some Coach Forbes has certainly mentioned it plenty. We joked about it on a game broadcast I did with Paul Shuey earlier in the season about your significant other being at Carolina and that maybe factoring into your decision to come. That with that aside, and maybe that's a piece of the equation, sort of before you committed, as you committed, and now with some time and obviously a full season under your belt post commitment, how much of that sort of aligns with, okay, these were the reasons I was intent on coming here, and like, are there more reasons that it's a better fit than you even thought it was going to be now?
I will say that for my expectation, and after being there for a full school year in baseball season, it has blown what I thought it was going to be out of the water in a positive way. And I could never have dreamed that. Obviously, like I was super excited, knew it was going to be great, but just the level of happiness I've had, just the level of trust that these coaches have had with me, has been just unbelievable to me, and nothing that I would have ever expected. And I'm so grateful and appreciative of that. I think this 1 year at Carolina has just changed my life in so many ways. I think the biggest way is just changed my life as a human being and just understanding, the principles and some of the things that Coach Forbes preaches daily that I can just kind of take on for the rest of my life. In school, like school's been awesome. I think a big thing for me was if I was going to leave, Georgia, who was a great university, a great baseball program, I wanted to go to a school that was also going to challenge me too. And UNC, academically has been great, has pushed me too. So I think I've just grown so much over these last 8 or 9 months that it was something that I, never really imagined could happen in that short amount of time.
That's so awesome, man. I'm really glad to hear that. Is there maybe a moment where you realized that was the case? Like, does something stick out as it hit and it all of a sudden you were like, whoa, okay, this is going to be even better than I imagined it was going to be? Because I would imagine like going through the transfer process can be a bit anxious.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, I mean, right? Am I making the right decision for me in every way possible? And that, right? I mean,
100%.
It's a huge step to take, and I would have to imagine it's a maybe even a greater sigh of relief when you realize, okay, this was the right call.
Yeah, I think for me the biggest thing was I realized, throughout the fall and when I first got there, like how special this place was, this university was, and just the team was going to be that this year. And then, like when the fall is over, like you miss it. Like you really like, some people, sometimes it's nice, after a long fall, you get a little bit of a break, get to go home, see your family, come back and kind of rejuvenate a bit. But I remember like the fall was ending, I was just crushed that we weren't scrimmaging anymore. They weren't going to get on the field anymore. And so just the whole Christmas break, I was just itching to get back, because for me, I think your mindset changes a lot too when you become a senior, kind of when this is going to kind of be your final shot at everything. And I talked to some people throughout the year, just like how I'd regret if I never kind of just gave 100%, like left anything out on the table, anything, preparation, nutrition, sleep, approach of it at bats. Like, I feel like if I gave away like one at bat this year, I was gonna be upset with myself because I'd look back 5 years later and be like, man, like I regret that. I regret not doing everything I could for the team. And so just so with that being said, I think I just realized that just throughout the fall and after the fall, like how much I just missed being out there, and throughout December being home, just how anxious and excited I was to kind of get back out there with the guys.
Not to get all philosophical on you, but there's that old John Wooden quote about things turn out best. I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. So I'm just like hearing your answer. I'm curious as to whether or not it's like a chicken or the egg thing, right? Was Carolina the fit because you were ready to make it the fit? Obviously, it has its advantages as a program and a school, but it's so good to hear that that's turned out for you.
Definitely.
You mentioned sleep, nutrition, things like that. What are some ways that through that sort of unlocking of a mindset as a senior that you've kind of tightened it up and locked it in? Is it mainly stuff like that? Is there anything else that goes?
Yeah, I think I don't know how Coach Forbes doesn't talk about this a ton, when he's doing his interviews, but just the power of discipline he talks about a lot. And you always think like as an athlete, it's like when I'm on the field, I want to be mentally locked in, don't want to make mental errors on the field, be 100% physically. But there's so much more to that on the mental side of things, and it's so much that can be carried into your kind of daily life. Which in the past I hadn't done a great job of it. And this year I was like, wow, like this stuff kind of works. Like taking care of your body all the time, eating the right things, drinking water, studying, staying on top of school. Because I think a lot of things that people fail to realize is like we have a rigorous academic schedule. Some of us do that is important to us. Like I really like school is really important to me because I know kind of where it can take you, especially at UNC. And so understand like the stuff that I want to apply on the field, I should if you apply it in all aspects of your life, then it will definitely carry on onto the field as well.
And one affects the other.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Things slip through the cracks, then you're compensating in a lot of places, and that's smart of you. Smart of you, Parks.
And I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, I promise.
So you talk about like the last ride concept of this season. Just how cool is it that Omaha is included in that?
Yeah, I think after we beat West Virginia, I was like, my last college game will be played at Charles Schwab Field, and it hit me. I was like, wow, it's gonna be amazing.
Right. Yeah. No matter what. No matter how this thing goes down, you're gonna be in Omaha at the end of it.
It's like it's perfect too because it's like I tell the freshmen on the team, like DeCaro and Stevenson and Gallagher, I'm like, y'all are so spoiled, man. Like y'all have been here for 1 year and you get to come here. Like it took me 4 years of hard work to get here, and I get to come here once, and it's the coolest thing I've ever done. Yeah. Like this, I want to keep reminding them, like this isn't normal. Like this is the standard that needs to be set, and you'll have to keep working to continue to get out here every year.
I think that's an important point, just given the perspective of being one of the older guys in the program, like you're talking about. I mean, Jason was 17 for the majority of the season. He didn't turn 18 until like a month ago. Yeah. Right. The this isn't normal part feels like an important role for you in this run, even while you guys are trying to put the finishing touch on this run. Because I as fans even, and we have a good number of North Carolina fans, obviously, who listen to this show, you can get swept up in the man, like we got so-and-so back and so-and-so back and so-and-so back next year. It's just so much goes into a run to get here that it's not a guarantee, no matter how much you can look at it and say, okay, on paper, we should get back. So do you think about that? I mean, obviously you're talking about it with those younger guys. How much do you think about it as part of your role?
Yeah, I think for me, especially like kind of getting here, figuring out kind of how the roster was structured and realizing that, in the fall that Jason DeCaro was going to have to pitch a lot. Folger Boaz was going to have to pitch a lot. Gavin Gallagher, Luke Stevenson were going to get to play a lot. And there's so many more talented freshmen on this team too. But I think it really helped them knowing early that like, hey, like if we want to get to where we want to be, like they're going to have to play a big role in it. And it's like they don't have any time to be freshmen. You know what I mean? Because they're going to get thrown into the fire. And I think that was awesome for them. Especially like, those four guys are such competitors that it helped them because it was almost like they didn't have any time to kind of settle in and kind of get their feet wet. They were just kind of thrown into the fire. And I think like you look at it now, like you've got DeCaro yesterday pitching the first game in Omaha as a guy who just turned 18, just battling, and giving us a chance to win. And Luke with 2 hits, Gavin playing the postseason. So I think kind of them just realizing that they were going to, need to be mature enough to handle that, and they have been. It's been huge for this team.
Yeah. What have you observed of Jason specifically in his growth? Even when, like, you talk about the beginning of the season, it was expected that he was going to have to pitch a
Mm-hmm.
lot. No one could have predicted that he was going to have to become the de facto Friday starter because of Jake and Folger's injuries,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, that was just thrown into his lap.
Yeah.
From your point of view, how has he handled that?
He's handled it a lot better than I would have as a freshman. I remember back to my freshman year, I'm like talking to some of these guys. I'm like, good Lord, I don't know how they do this because I was a mess. I was all over the place. And so that just speaks to his maturity, speaks to, the coaching staff and how they've just handled him and how they've handled this team. But just how I feel like nothing phases him too, right? It's like he's so just emotionally on the mound. You don't ever see anything. He's never he's just so focused on his preparation and on his stuff that like he'll have a bad start and you don't even notice, right? He comes out against LIU, doesn't throw his best ball, then gives us a chance to win on short rest on Monday against LSU. And then goes out in the Super Regional a week later and gives us 6 1/3 or whatever it was of 1-run baseball, or I think it might have been no runs, honestly. But and then yesterday pitches great. So I think for him just to realize that he doesn't let setbacks disrupt the future, right? He doesn't let one bad start ruin the next one, and that's a sign of maturity because I can recall when I was younger that you can let a bat kind of a little bit of a domino effect, and for him to not do that, I mean he's super mature for his age, and it's been really impressive.
Coach Forbes has told me he's like sort of got this bulldog mentality. He just always wants to throw. Is that something that comes out in an outward way toward the rest of you guys? Like, I think Forbes had told me that the NC State series, what did he throw? Like 75, 80 pitches on Friday, and was ready to come out of the pen on Sunday to if it meant, the difference in the series, that sort of thing. And he was very expressive about it. That's the sort of personality he shows to you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and he does it the right way. You can tell he's so locked in. He's not it's not like he's overly vocal, kind of making a distraction. He's just so focused on what he wants to do that you can tell he gets these eyes and you're just like, God, he's ready to go. He's going to be I'm glad he's pitching for us today because he's so locked in. And he's another guy where he just puts the team, he just cares about the team, right? I think when you have a lot of guys who just want the team to win and kind of want to have that one goal of, reaching a national championship, then you have selfless guys who go out there and just give their all.
What was your first indicator? I'm struck by the majority of the guys on the team who I've interacted with that aspect of their wants, and they're like, you guys are truly team first. And a lot of people say that, a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, a lot of players will say that because it's the thing you're supposed to say. But when Vance Honeycutt was in your shoes, we did this in Charlotte when I spoke with him, and we were talking about the career home run record for North Carolina. I mean, he could not care less. He was appreciative, right? And obviously grateful for being put into the opportunity, being given the opportunity to make that happen. But he was laser focused. He's like, no, we're here in Charlotte to win the ACC tournament. And now I know for a fact he's thinking we're here in Omaha to win it all. At what point, because I'm sure you heard that a ton on the recruiting trail, right? At what point did it strike you that, oh no, they're for real about that here?
Yeah, I think for me, I think, it starts at the top, right? And so Coach Forbes does a great job with us, but I think, the players make the team, right? And so I think for me, I was, like I said, came in here, kind of meshed pretty quickly with the guys. And we all kind of I realized after, seeing Vance from afar playing against them, and then guys like Casey Cook, some of the returners, Jake Knapp, all those guys, they were so bought in on this team, right? And they were so sold on this team that I realized, God, this is amazing. All these guys, there's no one selfish. They all want the same thing, and they're all willing to do things that it takes to get there. And I think, I realized for me, the mindset I have about it is the UNC baseball program is bigger than myself, right? Not one person makes this program. It's the combination of players. If I let's say that one day I'm not feeling my best, I'm in a bad mood. Well, if I take a pitch off, then yeah, I'm hurting myself, but I'm also hurting the other 30, 40 guys in the locker room. And so that's the biggest way that I see it. It's I don't want to let my teammates down. I'm okay. I mean, I'm not okay, but if I let myself down, then I'll let myself down. And I can deal with that. But I can, deal with letting Gavin down, Colby down, Madera, Casey, Vance, and D'Onofrio and Steve, because they do everything they can for me. So why wouldn't I do it for them?
Is it the little slip there? You're not okay. That brings me to another maturation question for you. How much better now than your freshman year, even last year, do you think you handle the micro failures?
Yeah, it's a complete 180. I think and if I were to be honest with you, that's been my biggest issue in college, is kind of letting stuff domino a little bit, kind of thinking too much, trying to figure things out when if you really can break the whole entire game into, on the offensive side, 120 pitches, or on the defense side, 240 pitches in total, probably more than that, honestly. But I think the moment I really learned that, I think this fall I took a really big step with that. But I think it's changed my whole season, honestly, is not letting, one bad game kind of bounce to the next, to the next, to the next. And I think, if I look back in the past, it's like I would let a bad first, a bad affect the rest of the game. And I think the mindset of kind of being selfless and focused on the other team has helped me, because it's like, I just stop worrying about yourself. Like, you're not important. The team's important. And that's helped me a ton. Kind of, flush that batter, flush that mistake in the field, and kind of keep focusing on the next ones.
Yeah, no, we do have some like young players, hopeful, I'm sure, to play college baseball, who do listen to the show. What's key in finding that?
Yeah, I think I think this is cliche, but I think just like we keep saying the process, but it's like if you're result oriented, right? It's like if you're chasing, let's say, like, for example, like you get a jam, a lucky hit, a roller hit, like that's awesome, and then you line out and you're upset. It's like, well, the line out was the better swing, right? It's like that was better. That's kind of what will help you moving forward. So if you're just okay with, hey, the process of that bat was really good, right? Like, you take a bats, like, sometimes too, it's like 3-2, battle, strikeouts. It's like, I grinded there. I worked. I didn't get the result I wanted, but I really worked hard. And that's kind of where it's like those where you take your biggest steps growing as a player. So I would just say, just don't worry about the results. Don't worry about the stats. Just focus every day on, like, what it takes to get better. Like, if you just focus on what you need, like, what you need to do to get better, just keep focusing on that. And then I think the results will kind of carry themselves after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really good answer. I'm going to finish you up on one thing, and this one is a bit of a feeler, because I know it's with you guys here in Omaha. The loss of a steady presence in the dugout in JR. How has that affected the team?
It was tough, and I was only here for 1 year. Met him for a week, the Georgia Tech series weekend, but just the impact that he had on us as a team, I was so excited to meet him because I had never met him in person. I talked to him on the phone a few times, but was just so excited when he came to town.
And if you would, I'm sorry to interrupt, if you would just sort of briefly explain his relationship to the team for those who are unaware, right?
So he, I think it goes back years. It goes back years and years to when they were coming out here in Omaha, I think with Coach Fox, 15, 20 years ago. He's from around here. I think if I have the story right, I could be incorrect, but he came to Chapel Hill for some kind of treatment. And this really kind of grew, just loved Carolina baseball. And so has been hanging around the team for, a decade plus, way longer than any of us have been around, obviously outside of Coach Forbes and some of the coaches, but has been an annual thing for him to come to Chapel Hill, bat boy for a weekend. And then when they come out to Omaha, just kind of come hang with the team and stuff. And so, everyone knows who he is around the program and just his presence. But for me, I was just like, the impact he had on me. Just his joy and just his happiness to be there was amazing, and just really kind of puts things in perspective just to how fortunate we were to have him in our lives. And I know that he loved having us in his life as well, but just the impact he had on us as a team was something that more than I can put into words, for sure.
Yeah, when you guys won the Super Regional, I was up in the press box with others, and we saw sort of the celebration panning out, and we saw Coach Forbes with a sheet.
Yeah.
It was a paper. We couldn't quite tell what it was, and we all wondered what it was. Turns out it was a picture of JR. So that's pretty cool that I would imagine that picture's up in the dugout when you guys are playing here at
we I think for us this year was like, we really, really wanted to get to Omaha for JR, just because we know that he just really wants us to get out here because it's his home, so we could kind of get to come to him instead of him having to come to us. So after he unfortunately passed away, we were just when we got here, when we came to when we made it to Omaha, we were just like he definitely played a role in that. He was there watching us for sure, and then we get to his family's out here, so we get to spend some time with them and stuff, which has been great.
Nice.
Yep.
That's great. This has been awesome, man.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. What do you plan on doing after you're playing? You're pretty good at this stuff. Talking about.
Yeah. So honestly, I have so many dreams and stuff that I have no idea, which makes sense. But I would love to. The business side of sports interests me a lot.
Yeah.
I would love to kind of get in a role that you have. That would be my dream. But I think when you grow up your whole life centered around sports, it's hard to kind of get out of that.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm doing here.
Yeah. So if I could be a Major League Baseball GM or something, that would be the dream. But I would love to just be around it because I just know how much it changes life. So
nice.
Yep.
Cool. Very cool. Well, best of luck with that. Best of luck the rest of the way
Thank
here
you.
in Omaha.
Thank you.
And appreciate the time.
No, I appreciate you having me.